From the heart of the Appalachian Hills, nestled in between an outhouse and a moonshine still, comes the twosome of unparalleled levels of cool. She loves her mountain magic and he's a folk-telling carny fool. Prepare to hear legends from Bigfoot to Loki as they try to decipher what in the actual hell is a hokey. She's the black-veiled beauty and my goodness he's got a purty mouth. They've escaped the land of lobsters and returned to the haunted South. Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your hosts, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we, oh my God, have been through the 7 rings of hell's butt.
Yes, it's been bad.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. It's been interesting and rough. So not only, by the way, hi everybody.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Missed you.
Love you. So not only was strep throat in the house, but the nasty flu was in the house. That's right. Not only can you have one sickness, you can have 2 sicknesses.
It's just because when you decide to get sick, you just have to go all out.
All freaking out.
All out. Yes, bring all the sickness in.
Oh, yeah.
All of it.
All of it. All of it. Can I get a pneumonia for 100, please, Alex? No, we still got some of the Crizap in our lungs and all that good stuff, but it went through everybody. And I mean, there was one afternoon we thought we were getting better, and it just started. I mean,
we made the mistake of getting out of bed.
Yeah, no, it was like, and still throughout the weeks, I had the Bruce Wayne job, and I just refused to do a whole lot of bed rest, and it just it compounded it and made it worse.
Yes.
So yeah, needless to say, happy hello Wednesday, and what our plan is from here on out is to bring you a new episode every Wednesday. And so we like having the special day, you know, the release date, because, you know, normally we throw it out there and it's just like, okay, there's the date. But we want a release date, just a release date. And that way every Wednesday is our goal. That is our target. You know, goals are nice when they're hit, and that is our target.
Yes.
So that's cool. But anyway, other than the sickness, we haven't seen you guys since Halloween.
I know. It seems like it's been so long.
It's been a long time. I mean, especially this time of year. You have Halloween and then Thanksgiving, right? So there's this whole that seems like a whole nother world. And there's always like a Halloween hangover. We had a show pegged for the week after Halloween, you know, and then the sickness happened and everything. We'll get to all that. I have a reason for this, I believe. But maybe I'll do that first.
Okay.
So right after Halloween, we decided to go rent a cabin. So we rented a cabin in the woods. Not that cabin in the woods, but much like that cabin in the woods. And it was a beautiful little cabin. And there's actually pictures on my Instagram of you know, the foggy, recluse nature of this cabin. It was pretty cold at night, so we had a fire going the entire time.
Yes.
We had this wonderful smell of this log cabin, and we had this, you know, the big hot tub outside.
Right, took advantage of that.
In the cold, and the leaves were blowing and falling, and just a beautiful November sky, you know, and you could see the stars. So I got in the hot tub probably more than a human should, and out of the hot tub and then in again and out and in, and I was taking turns with everybody getting into the hot tub, and I believe that somewhere between that and stoking a continuous fire for a few days that I wouldn't refuse to let burn down,
right,
somewhere along the in and out of that place, I think I got sick.
Yes.
I know that I found out that you can't stay in a hot tub too long because of the burns on my feet, the chemical burns. But other than that, I had a great time at the cabin. It was awesome.
Yes.
But that's where the sickness kind of started.
Right.
So it was either that or walking through Pigeon Forge with all these people from all over the world.
Right.
Sneezing and
it could have come from anywhere.
Wheezing and walking through like Ripley's and stuff with all these.
Touching all the things that everybody else has touched.
Let's all touch this that everybody just touched. That's the cute little Venezuelan girl with the snot hanging off her nose.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's completely fine. It's especially because wood oil.
Right.
Right.
You know what? I remember though we went to the aquarium too while we were there, and I touched a jellyfish.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, you did. I'm not sure that's like really in the are you saying maybe you got a sickness from the jelly?
No. I just thought it was cool. I wanted to mention it.
Oh.
Ari did it too.
Oh, well.
It was very cool.
Yeah. We saw an alien when we were there. That was cool.
Right.
The squid. Uh-huh. So that was interesting.
That was cool.
A nice fun little thing. Before the sickness began, there was a few fun things that happened. Mm-hmm. So the Halloween hangover that I'm talking about, every year for 1 month, everybody likes what we like.
Yes, they do.
Everybody wants to watch horror movies. Everybody wants to come over, and everybody wants to talk about ghost stories.
They want to tell you about their experiences and ask you questions. And
it's wonderful time of year.
Yes,
you can go to the cornfields. You can go to spooky walks. You can do all this wonderful stuff.
Right,
and then it's over, and then people are playing Christmas music.
Immediately,
people switch out their decorations. They throw their pumpkins away and put up Santa Clauses. And not that there's anything wrong with Christmas. You guys love Christmas.
Love Christmas.
And of course it's great. It's just very sad when the haunting is over.
Right.
And so that's kind of always a letdown for me. It's just this thing. I can't explain it. Have you ever had a date earmarked for like going somewhere and you're really excited about it and you build up and you go to it and then you're kind of lost?
Right. Well, when you build yourself up that high, you have to come down.
Yeah.
That's just the natural order.
Yeah. We're going to have to, we need something post-Halloween, like something haunted to look forward to from now on.
Right.
Like a November 15th paranormal hunt.
Yeah, something like that. That's a good idea.
With a bunch of friends.
Yes, that is a good idea.
Every year, it's our post-Halloween haunt.
Right.
And that's what we need to start doing.
To get over our Halloween hangover.
Yeah. Yes. And that way we won't have the Halloween hangover and we can it's you never know, man. So, I have it on very good authority.
Yes.
That the foreword to our book is being written by a beautiful lady.
Oh, that's nice.
And beautiful, sweet lady in California.
Yes.
And, where there's terrible wildfires. Oh, my God.
Oh, horrible.
Oh.
Horrible.
Anyway, she's writing the foreword to the book. She just finished the book. She loves it. Of course she loves it. It's it's just immaculate. And it's tentatively slated for a Valentine's Day release of next year.
Right.
You heard it here first. But that's tentative.
Yes.
Tentative is just that for a reason. You never know, right? So, anyway, those California wildfires, Jesus, our hearts, our prayers go out to everybody out there that has been affected in California, or if you have family members that have been affected or lost their homes, lost everything. It's horrible.
It is.
And, I won't even get into the side of things of what could or couldn't be prevented, because you know what? People lost their homes. It wrecked their lives. And it's just really scary. Plus, some of those stories are terrifying.
Oh, no.
We were wondering, people trying to get out of paradise, how so many people got caught in their vehicles.
Right.
And we're like, how does 60 people get caught in their vehicles, And then we found out that it was moving how many football fields a minute?
80 football fields a minute or something like that. Like a ridiculous speed.
Yeah.
There's no way you could have gotten away from it.
Horrifying to think about.
Oh, yeah.
And you see it coming and you're gridlocked and you can't get out. And I tell you, sister, I don't know. I'm with you. I think drowning's the worst.
Right.
But burning to death is probably, I don't know, it may be worse than drowning. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to find out.
You know what? Keep both those elements.
Right.
If I have to go out with an element, let me go out in deep snow. Because
where you just fall asleep.
No, I'm pretty sure I died. I'm pretty sure I almost died one night walking in 2 foot of snow.
It's amazing how tired you get trying to walk.
That's the whole thing. It's really weird. Like when it was happening to me, I was walking up a hill, and because I couldn't get the car up the hill back in those days when I didn't drive 4-wheel drives,
right?
Or I didn't have one at the time. But I was walking up the hill to get to the house, and it wasn't a really long way or anything. But it was in 2 foot of snow, and it was really cold, super cold, and I think it was like 4 degrees that night. And
it was pretty cold.
And I was walking up that hill in that deep snow, and I remember just getting so tired, and something in me was just like, oh, just go to sleep.
Yeah, just sit down and rest for just a bit.
It won't hurt you. Just lay down here in the snow and close your eyes for a moment. And then it's like all of a sudden that murderer or whatever goes away, and you're just like, whoa, hold on a second, take deep breaths and kumbaya. Let's get to the, something.
I can't sleep out here.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's just so weird how that works, But yeah, if I had to go with an element, I believe that would be it. Or wind.
Wind. You just want to be blown away like a tornado, blown.
I want to be blown like somewhere else, like just blow me to Kansas.
I'm pretty sure the blowing isn't what kills you. I think it's probably the fall after you get blown,
or the cow in the tornado.
Yeah, or something being impaled by something, or.
All right, we'll take the fun out of it for me. I used to be so terrified of those because of Wizard of Oz.
I know.
It's just, I always thought, my God. I mean, seriously, that was my vision of a tornado.
Right.
And I used to draw them all the time because that's how scared I was of a tornado. It's kind of funny, huh? So with being sick, there is some advantages. On the weekends, you do happen to, although I have done 8 wrestling shows since we've been back.
Yes,
by the way, which is just awesome. If you guys don't know John Hawkins, you should find John Hawkins because John Hawkins is a very mean man. You can find him at innovateprowrestling.com. So look him up. He's really cool. Anyway, the being sick, instead of going out, you tend to watch television programs.
Yes.
And we had quit watching The Walking Dead probably a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And it was boring us, and we were tired of the freaking commercials.
So many commercials.
And so much stuff was just going on to make us,
right.
And we were just like, if it's a task to watch something,
right,
we just don't watch
we're
it.
Just like, we'll just know.
And so I heard about something that happened, and I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I heard about something that happened mid-season or whatever, a few episodes back, and it intrigued me. It was very intriguing, and some people were crapping on it because there's always those professional crappers. We've talked about them,
right?
Bring in the crappers.
Yes. I think that pays pretty well, actually.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. Soros. But I thought it was interesting because it was different. I like different is good. Arby's. So anyway, we went back and we binged it and watched the whole thing and got up to current. And I'm really happy with that because the show's awesome again to me. Really, really enjoyed that. And the whole reason I'm telling you guys about this is because of our insane now 12-year-old who was 11, just a few days back.
Right.
But our beautiful, insane, scary, awesome, and terrifying 12-year-old Ariana. So I finally decided, or we decided as a family, that she was old enough to watch Walking Dead.
Yes.
Okay. We are good parents and we monitor what she can and can't watch. Like we would never let her watch a slasher film.
Right.
But we might let her watch psychological horror.
Right.
And because she's smarter than most people we know and she can handle it. So anyway, we were like, hey, would you like to start watching Walking Dead? And I believe there was just a trail of dust up to her room. And she just flew up there and she started binging on Netflix.
Yes.
Well, this little girl watched the entire series of The Walking Dead in 1 week.
Yes, well, she was sick and had to be in her bed, but goodness.
She was sick, but it was so funny because we would see her. She's an emotional. She gets into her drama, so she would come downstairs and she'd be like, "So and so died," and because she came downstairs, we're like, "Baby, you okay?" She's like, "Yeah." so-and-so died. And we're like, oh, baby, sorry.
She's like, do you have some tissues?
So the next day, it's like, the next day it would be like 2 seasons ahead and somebody else's death. And she's coming down to you got the tissues. And we're like, yeah. So it was funny. We had a friend over here at the house. And I told him, hey, she's getting to the really bad part. If anybody watches the show, let's just say that, that part, batter up and all that. And so anyway, she was getting to that part and we were like freaking out about it, honestly.
Right.
And she got to that part and it was kind of, it's about what you expect. She handled it pretty decent. But she seeing all this emotion, because it's one of those up and down kind of shows. So we were asking her, she's all caught up, tonight. And it's like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. Why? It's like, oh, no reason. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm good. And so yeah. Anyway, I thought that I would throw that in there because it's kind of comical.
It is. I can't believe she watched all that.
It's like
that quickly.
It was like a psychological examination, or some kind of just experiment,
like a test.
Yeah, just let's see what this will do to someone's mind. If we watch it all in a row.
I was really impressed because I asked her if it like crept into her dreams, because sometimes when we binge shows and I go to sleep, I dream about stuff
just
that I've seen.
That happens
on
to you
show.
all
She
the time.
was like, no, I don't. It doesn't come up in the dreams or anything. I was like, okay.
Very nice segue, my dear.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because I was going to talk about something that's been happening over this past month.
Okay.
During the sick time. So when I get sick, I have some weird things that happen, okay? I have very weird things that happen, especially when I have migraines. And I did have 1 or 2 during this time period because everything being jacked up.
Right.
I had sinus pressure. I had this neck problem and all this stuff. So I have these really strange dreams, and I've been having these very lucid dreams, super lucid. Mm-hmm. And in these dreams, I've also been able to read. I've been able to, things people wonder about sometimes.
Right.
I've absolutely full Technicolor. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And
mm-hmm.
I'm remembering those things, and I think I'm thinking about them in the dream because people have talked about them. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm reading right now.
Right.
But very crazy dreams. I've written most of them down, mm-hmm. but just as an example, okay? This is an example of one of the dreams that I had. And there's no embellishment here. I write it down as I remember it, and I write it down as soon as I wake up, mm-hmm. and I don't mm-hmm. add anything. If I don't remember something to it, I just kind of leave that out. So on this one, I was like, I found this little girl. She was found in nature, and she was about Ariana's age, and nobody understood how she was there. She had a special relationship with nature, and she talks to things like the grass and the trees. And Stacey and I were taking care of her. Stacey it was like it was Stacey, but it was some blonde lady. I have an older daughter in this dream, and she had long red hair, kind of like Cherry Blossom or Cheryl Blossom, whatever, on Archie.
Right.
On Riverdale.
Yeah.
So she looked a lot like that girl. It wasn't that girl, but it looked a lot like that girl, pale and, bitchy and stuff.
Right.
And of course the blonde wife. And there's several doctors, or they're not really doctors. They're kind of psychologists.
Right.
And they're shrinks, and they're in like these tweed jackets, and it's another time period, probably the 1800s. And they're standing in a circle outside this, in this like yard area, and they're talking, but they're not, I don't hear what they're saying. Mm-hmm. They're talking, but out of their mouth is literally blah, 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 blah. And they're doing their hands, and
right.
They're all talking in a circle, but the wife understands what they're saying.
Right.
And I'm standing there, and this happens to me a lot. Like, I'm not usually focused on what everybody else is. Mm-hmm. So the little girl is sitting there playing with the dew on the grass. Like, she's using her fingers, and the dew beads are coming up off the grass and slowly going back down. And nobody's really noticing that.
Except for you.
Except for me. And she's
right.
grinning at me, and I'm grinning at her because I'm okay with that. Uh-huh. And next, we take a walk. I take a walk with the little girl, and there's all these windmills in a row. There's like 5 windmills, old school wooden windmills. And I tried looking this up, and I did find some windmills in a row in some places. But this was through these woods and stuff. And when we were walking through the woods, I was like, you could talk to those trees, can't you? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, they can hear you, right? She's like, yeah. And it was really strange. And so I'm pretty sure she was some kind of elemental that we were taking care of.
Right.
So we get back and there's this mansion, right? Well, I've had this mansion in so many dreams, and there's always these different rooms, and I'm pretty sure the mansion is my mind, because there's rooms you can't go in and all this stuff. So we're there, and we're in this, like, you walk down these stairs into this room that's got this long table, like a dining room, but it's very closed off, which is kind of cool. And there's this one oblong cutout in the stone where you can see the hallway, but it's more like you can see like the waist of people walking by, the way that we're down.
Right. Because the living room, it's like sunk in.
Because it's sunk in, right. And but I could see people walking by, and we were down there talking. So this guy's trying to sell us this house. But it's my mansion that's in all my dreams. And I kind of knew that in the dream. It's weird. The wife and the daughter and the special girl are all there. The older daughter, the redhead, is really mad at me. And she says I'm not getting in, and saying my attention's replaced with the younger girl.
Right. So she was like jealous of her.
Yeah. Very jealous. Because she's my actual daughter. And there was something, though, when I was doing this dream that was trying to make me not type all this down. And I typed all that. That's something. It was like I literally watched words erase, and it was really strange, hard to swallow, but it happened, and I didn't know why that was so. Like, what about this was so important that it wouldn't want me to write it down? So I go back. I go room to room in this house, and I go to bed, and I'll get woke up by these horrible screams. Now in the house, I failed to mention this. There were birds everywhere. Okay. There were ravens and there were like other kinds of birds all through the house. And it was a very, like, you made your own food here. I mean, you killed your own game and stuff. So there were roosters outside and chickens outside and all this stuff, but it was done in a very nice farmhouse type way. Right. So when I wake up, this is the weirdest part. Okay. All these birds are freaking out. And there was birds everywhere in this house, which is not that strange, but it didn't feel strange anyway. So they're all freaking out bad, and everybody's screaming. So I run downstairs, and these birds in the cages have little masks, like little cloth hoods pulled over their heads with drawing of what their face looks like. Like a drawing of a very primitive drawing of a bird beak, but with primitive coloring too. It's like not a colored pencil, but almost like a brush, maybe. Like yellow beak and an eye and
like a kid painted it. Or something.
like painted on these little like burlap type white though hoods, and they're pulled tightly, very tightly over these birds' heads.
No wonder the birds are freaking out.
And they're freaking out, and they're like biting, or pecking, like when you're trying to take them off. And the ravens were like that too. There were ravens with it over their heads, and the rooster was like that with the rooster thing drawn over it. And it was really strange.
That's very odd.
Yeah, it was really weird. This whole hoods on the birds thing, and that's where I woke up. So I just thought it was weird, and I wanted to mention it because I've had a litany of these freaking dreams like this. Weird dreams. So I wanted to know if anybody else out there has been having some strange dreams lately.
Or if it was just your sickness dream.
Yeah. Or if it was my down with the sickness. So, I don't know. And if you have had some of those weird dreams, possibly you could have had them because you went to ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your place for everything lucid. Facebook.com/ParanormalSideshow. Some silent lucidity. On the Twitter, it's @Sideshow97. I don't have anything on that. Instagram, Hot Clear Dream Dam. It's John and Stacey Edwards. And every Wednesday, that's right, every Wednesday, come one, come all, you can listen to us on everything like Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all kinds of goodiness. It's everywhere you want to look, that's where you're going to find us. And also, if you want to be a patron, be a patron. We have so many cool little levels and things you can sign up for. You need to go to patreon.com/paranormal sideshow right now. Become a patron for Christmas. It'll make you feel better about yourself. And you can also right now, if you become a patron, you're going to be helping go to the fund of increasing the quality of the equipment.
Yes.
So we really want to get up to the next level of equipment because we have a lot of listeners. We have a ton of listeners, and we have some really cool patrons. And so it's time for a little patreon.com/paranormal sideshow, because that's where you go. But speaking of very cool things and some amazing things we have to catch up on, because by God, do we have some creepy, kooky, cool news with the beautiful Stacey.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's.
All right, so let's start with this first story about the interstellar object.
The interstellar object again.
Again.
Wow. All right.
So this is an article about how some researchers have done a paper, done a study, and they have actually come out and claimed that they feel like the interstellar object could be a light sail sent from another civilization.
Wow.
So they are actually putting forth the theory that perhaps it is not just a comet, it's actually alien in origin.
Right. Something that most people said right off the bat because of the intelligent type. No, I'm being serious, the way it kind of slingshotted around things.
So the paper was written by Shmuel Bialy.
Really? Was it?
That's one guy's name. And Professor Abraham Leib. And he's a director.
I'm sorry. You can't just pass over Shmuel.
I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
So I don't care what country you're from. So where did the parents stand there looking at the nursery and going, "Oh, honey, look how cute he is. Look how cute. Honey, that's not ours. That's ours." Shmuel. I mean, where do you get a name like that?
I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly.
You know what? Right now, I feel bad already. Right now, somebody is going to be messaging us because we do have thousands of people that download the show every single week.
Right.
And every time I say something about, because back in the old days, I could talk about people and all this stuff. Now, when I talk about a Shmuel, I get somebody, it's going to be signed Shmuel Harden, Well,
hopefully they'll tell you how to pronounce it. It's spelled Shmuel.
Yeah.
So
they'll be like, we're listening to Darkness Radio from now on. Taking me and the little Shmuels with me. The little Shmuels. Go ahead. This is a really cool story. I don't want to take away from it with the Shmuelness.
Well, let me explain.
Okay, go.
What they did. Okay.
Yes.
So they've come out and they suggested that, that even our civilization, creates light sails with similar dimensions. They've been designed and construction by us, and that this could possibly be something that another civilization has sent to transport cargo or people between planets or between stars or etc. So after this paper came out.
Wait a second. What is the etc.?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Oh, it doesn't say etc.
No.
I thought they were trying to pass over something there. Like they knew what it was really about. It's like, it could be this, or etc.
No, it's just using that as a...
Okay. I got you.
So anyway, after this paper came out, this study that they did came out, the Canadian physicist that actually discovered the interstellar object, his name is Robert Work. He actually claims that their theory that they put forth is wild speculation, and that he doesn't feel it has any basis whatsoever, and just slam the whole thing completely. So Professor Loeb, one of the ones that wrote the paper, actually sent in an email and claimed, that their paper follows standard scientific methodology, that they had the data, there was an anomaly. The anomaly being that it moved faster than a normal object should move, which is how they knew
solid science
that it was interstellar. And because that there was an anomaly in the data, that nobody knew how it was created, that they put forth a proposed explanation,
right?
Something that was an alternative to normal behaviors. Right. And, he said, this is just what we've put forward. And he said, I encourage anyone with a better explanation to write a paper and publish it. And he feels like the reaction that guy had was a little bit, unnecessary, a little bit prejudiced, because, he claims it's a comet, even though they didn't think it was a comet at first. They've decided that, yes, it's just a comet, and that, and he feels like that's what it is. So he's just slamming this other guy's work, which I think is a little unfair, because, even like the people that wrote the paper, they're like, this is what we do. We write papers, and then we get more data, and then we, knock down the proposed ideas that obviously are not right.
Right.
So
it's called the scientific method. Right.
So this is just their study that they've done, and you can go and look at the paper. They used proper scientific methodology, and they've put forth this, proposed idea.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, other people have.
Yeah, a lot of people have
absolutely claimed,
because it's the first time this has ever happened. It acted abnormally, and it sure as hell seemed as if, that was one of the first things. I believe the first thing that pops in your mind is a lot of times, more times than not, the correct answer. If you're watching Jeopardy, a lot of times you get Mary Queen of Scots is the first thing.
Right.
And then you think about it and you're like, Queen Elizabeth. And they're like, oh, the answer is, who was Mary Queen of Scots? And you punch the nearest person, right in the face, and they don't believe you, but you still knock them out. You're like, poof. You're like, that's what I was thinking. And they're like, why are you hitting me? I don't understand. Or maybe that's just my life.
Maybe.
So anyway, the first reaction to everybody. Now, I will give you, there is 70% us wanting it to be a spaceship.
Right.
Always, right? Everybody wants it to be a spaceship. We're to the point of civilization where we're like, will you please come? Please. Right. Things are not well. Just
once and for all. Just let us see.
Come see us. We may be ready for overlords. And, I don't see a problem with presenting different thoughts. That's what we do. And that's one of the things wrong with today. And wrong with the world. And I put a big thought on Facebook the other day. And the thought was because of all the disruptions in the world right now. And all the people arguing and fussing, and all the violence in the streets and all this stuff. It's really getting me down.
Right.
Because we choose the side of, weird. So we get along with you as long as you're strange.
Right.
And we try to do that because there's people we love on both sides of most arguments. And
right. Well, you have to think, when you're in a field like the paranormal field, or any kind of field where, things are not explainable all the time, you always have a lot of people with differing beliefs and differing theories, and you have to be able to talk about that, and and be okay that these people think it's different than you. You have to be okay with that.
Paranormal conventions at their heart are supposed to be a place for people of like minds. Like when we first got into the paranormal, and we talk about how there was no other people that, at least were out that were into the paranormal, we love to exchange theories. And it's one of those things, like, we have a lot of different theories out there. I have different theories than Alan Marston, but we're friends. And, and sometimes those theories intermingle, and they become a new theory.
Right.
Because we talked about it, right? And I think, just to get political for a moment without getting political, because we don't have politics on the show.
Right.
But in general, I was thinking the other day, because this is weird, I got a subscription to Sirius Satellite Radio again. And I haven't had one, and they were having a free preview. So I always just make my playlist. Okay. So I live in a world of playlists, and we have for years.
Right.
And I make my playlist on Apple Music. because I subscribe to Apple Music. So it's always just my little bubble, my little whatever I like, the music that I liked 20 years ago.
Right.
Okay. And somewhere along 8 years ago, really when you could really start downloading and making all your playlists, 8 to 10 years ago, I quit taking in
new music
for the most part. There is stuff that break through every now and then.
Right.
But as a society, I've noticed that everybody's got their playlist, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't listen to the radio that much anymore.
Right.
And when you listen to the radio, you get this chance to hear something you never heard before and go, oh, wow, I need to find out what that is and buy that album and all this stuff, because we live in a bubble. We have this super convenience, and this super convenience is supposed to be, technology is supposed to make our lives better and our worlds better. Instead of watching television and maybe see a commercial for another show you want to watch, you binge the whole television series, Ariana, and you don't get to see other things that might be out there.
Right.
Well, the problem is you can also delete people and block people who don't have the same opinion as you. So if you like a certain political candidate, you only want to be friends with that person. You only want to watch programming that is reflective of good things about that person. We don't have real news anymore. We don't have down the middle real news, Walter Cronkite sitting there reading that anymore. We have either conservative or liberal, and they're going to be very pro their person, very con unfairly to the other person. And I don't care which side you're on. You know what I'm talking about. And what is a problem with that is everybody has just created their comfort bubble, right? So not everybody, that's very generalized. A lot of people have created a comfort bubble, which is, this is my music, this is my shows, this is my political affiliation, and it's all good. That's all well and good until you go shopping at the mall. And you're shopping at the mall and somebody's wearing a hat that you don't agree with, right? And then you don't know how to interact because you can't hit delete or block because they're real. And they're in front of you.
Right.
So you have to interact. And you don't interact well because we have made it that way.
Right.
And it's something new. Like, this is a phenomena that's never happened before because we've never had this technology. Right. And that's what just kills me and and it just blows my mind. And so this scientist, we have one of the most remarkable stories of our lifetimes. Okay. I still believe that this story 10, 20, 30 years from now could be one of those stories that you look back. And I was talking to you the other day in the car about history because I'm a history buff.
Right. Huge
history buff. And one of the things that I adore about history is I look back to dates and events that happened. And it's like, so such and such on 1861, this happened and this caused this. And you think, and in my mind, I always take myself to that place. Like, that event happened, but what happened 10 miles from there in a farmhouse? Well, they didn't have any damn idea that this event happened.
Right.
And they were just living their life. Okay. They may have never been affected, or very little. Okay. But this big event becomes so huge because when they wrote the history book, they put this date in there and this event.
Right.
Okay. And things don't always just work like that. It's not always just one event caused all this stuff, but that's how we are programmed. And I think about the world as we go each day. Like, is this little event the event that's going to be in the book?
Right. That
caused the fall of the United States? Is it going to be this? It's going to be that? Well, when I see this interstellar object, there's a few buzz things about it. Never happened before.
Right.
Okay. We've never had this happen before. That's big. Because we're talking space. We're talking, real science. This has never happened before.
Right.
The shape is impossible or whatever, or unusual to be coming through the way it does.
Right.
The slingshot patterns to pick up speed is something that they have used themselves with satellites, or we have used ourselves with satellites to further project them out. But to use gravitational force on planets or whatever and shoot them on.
Right.
So it's using the same the same type thing, right? So because somebody takes this huge event that has not been covered nearly enough because of said drama on news channels,
right?
I think it's completely and utterly ridiculous for somebody to condemn an opposing viewpoint.
Right.
That really does bother me. I love what they think it is. Could be caca.
Could be.
But, I will get off my soapbox. But, I think that the point is valid about everything. I think that, we're guilty of it too. But I know you and I really like to talk to everybody. And we have friends on both sides of most arguments. Just the way we like to. I hate to shut people off because I like to get opposing views.
Right.
And better myself,
Yes.
So anyway, continue with it.
All right, well, let's move on to this next story. And this is a really cool story from Ireland and I know that you've heard about this. I know I don't tell you the news stories, but you've heard this. This is about the close encounter with the UFO off the Irish coast that happened a few weeks ago.
This was very huge. So if you guys haven't heard this, listen up.
So the Irish Aviation Authority, they've actually started this investigation into a sighting of an unidentified flying object that a number of aircraft actually witnessed as they were flying. And we're talking about, commercial aircraft, like pilots that fly all the time, are always in the sky. So I believe there was a pilot from Virgin Airlines. There was a pilot of a British Airways flight. Several different planes in a row actually saw the same object. And what they claim it was very bright. It was moving at a very fast rate of speed. I believe one pilot claimed that it was astronomical, like going Mach 2, like just absolutely flying. It was bright. And one pilot said that it went past them kind of up a little bit and then like went into like a north direction, like it changed direction while they were watching it. And so they, most of them called in. They were like, we were wondering what this was. Is there something going on? The air traffic control contacted the local military base and asked if they had any sort of exercises taking place, which they did not.
Right.
And, eventually I believe that the official explanation that came out was that it was a comet or a meteor, not a comet, a meteor. And that they just saw a meteor, shoot past them.
And change directions.
And, and go, go higher and
of course,
that sort of thing.
They're not, seasoned pilots or anything.
That don't fly those routes all
and see
the time.
Meteors and whatever. So the big thing about this, kids, is how mass media it was. It was all over the place. It hit every major news wire. It basically, in the news world, went viral. And that excites the crap out of me. I remember the second it happened, I'm like, getting Stacey. I'm like, look at this. It's like ding, ding, ding. It's hitting all the places, and then it hits all the actual news. Fox News got on there and talked about it a little bit, and so it was very interesting how quickly it got out there because they were, I'm sure she's going to get to it, but actually do an official investigation of this incident, and in the credibility. Not to say that you and I aren't credible.
Right.
But if I see something, which I have, people will not listen to it because I have a paranormal show. Okay? So basically, aliens like to screw with us, right? They're like, oh, hey, it's the host of a Sideshow. And they moon us from their UFO outside our window. And they're like, nobody's going to believe you. And because that's their voice. It's just, I mean, you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Or if you live out in the sticks, right? Which we've lived out in the sticks. We're not judging you.
No.
But you live out in the sticks and you're like, I know what I saw. They're not going to believe you just because people are pieces of crap. And just because
probably nobody else saw it if you're out in the
just
sticks.
because you live out somewhere and you don't want to be around people.
Right. Doesn't mean you don't know what you saw.
Yeah, exactly. You knew what you saw. In fact, you probably knew what you saw better than other people.
Well, I thought this was interesting because one of the pilots just saw like one light, but a couple of the other pilots saw several objects, like going along the same trajectory.
Well, they were in Ireland. They may have all been drunk.
Right. And I just thought the most interesting part to me was the one pilot that saw it come up and then it rapidly veered to the north.
Right.
And now I don't know how significant of a change that was, but that obviously is a change in direction because they said veered.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem like something that a meteorite would do.
Right.
As it was falling to the ground. Now, I'm not an expert on meteorites. So
I have over 10% Irish in me. I can say things like that.
It doesn't say it in the article, but I'm pretty sure they had witnesses in Kentucky.
And we also have one witness claiming to have seen the event from Kentucky. I know what I saw. I'm telling you, there was 3 lights. 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't say it, but
If you're a longtime listener of the show, you know that Kentucky always claims to have seen everything.
All right, well, let's move on to the next story. This is a really cool story, and I'm excited to follow up on this one when it finally happens. This is a story about how the Russian Space Agency has promised to check whether or not the U.S. moon landing really happened. Is that not hilarious?
Checkmate ski. Yes. Let's open a bottle of vodka right now, Babushka. I'm so happy. I may root for Drago now when I go see Creed.
So it says that the head of Russia's National Space Agency has proposed a mission to the moon to verify whether the American moon landings really took place, because there's so much, controversy about it. Back in the day,
they're trolling
the Soviet Union,
the NASA. They are, because they know something.
They probably do.
And they're just like, whoa. Do you want to see how to make them very much sweat? Sweat the perspiration. Yes. We watch them sweat the perspiration when they, how you say, faked the moon landing. Yes. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Just the fact that they're going just to do that. I hope the rocket's in the shape of a middle finger.
Well, they actually plan sometime after 2025 they've revealed plans that they want to start building a base on the moon. Mm-hmm. They want their moon project to exceed what we've done.
Yeah.
And they actually said, that they're not contending that we didn't go to the moon and just made a film about it.
Right.
But because of all the questions and because of all the speculation, they just want to, verify that, it's really helping us. They're helping NASA by verifying
I like to think that Russia's version of NASA, actually, like, the cosmonauts are like sitting around watching YouTube conspiracy videos, and they're like, dude, Dudski, he left Kluski's in the Shining Ski. It's in the Shining Ski, I'm telling you. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at Russian, but I thought that if you add ski to the end of everything.
I think people get it.
Okay.
I think people get it. It was really funny because one of the Russian gentleman that was doing this interview, he said that he thought that an inquiry should be launched into the disappearance of the original footage from the first moon landing, and where, there was like a lunar rock that was brought back, and mysteriously
the missing footage is nuts.
And he was like, if these things have really gone missing, shouldn't there be some sort of investigation? Like the very valid points.
Dude,
very valid points.
Strangest thing ever.
Right.
Okay, what's the biggest event? What is the biggest event in the history so far of mankind? What's mankind's greatest achievement?
Yes, going to the moon.
Especially
as Americans.
Man walking on the moon, right? Mm-hmm. That's that arguably.
Yes.
Arguably. That's the mankind's greatest achievement. We don't know who built the pyramids, so screw off. So listen, if you do something that's the greatest achievement, right?
Right.
Like my greatest achievement, I'm married.
Right.
And so I wanted to keep it around.
Right.
The greatest achievement, you think that you want to like maybe save the telemetry. So the actual telemetry, okay? The telemetry, the how do we get there? How did we get there? Is gone. And there's documentaries, you can go watch them. And there's guys standing in Goddard Space Center or wherever going, well, oddly enough, we really don't know where it's at. We don't know what happened to it.
This is what I don't understand. You can go to like the Smithsonian, let's say, and walk around and look, and people are just, they want to save history. I mean, you can see like Ronald Reagan's toothbrush, or like a piece of toilet paper that one of the Wright brothers wiped with the day they thought of the airplane idea. I mean,
is that
they
really there?
save. No, I don't know. I'm just making. They save everything. Everything. Every little thing that is possibly connected to a historical event.
Yeah.
They save it and put it under glass and, make it an exhibit out of it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, we don't have this footage from the moon landing. And everybody's just like, oh, well, yeah, it's just
from
on.
the greatest event in the history of mankind.
I don't understand that. I don't comprehend.
Probably because they broadcast it live from Australia. I mean, I don't know, man. Listen, there's conspiracies that come and go, and then I see some conspiracy theorists that, I don't know, got deplatformed.
Right.
That in 1998 made documentaries about crazy wildfires that, and then it's exactly like it, I'm just saying.
Right. There's
crazy conspiracy theories, and there always has been about the moon.
Right.
There is an old adage that I truly believe. All right. I totally believe where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right.
Okay. I totally believe that. I believe that there may be a lot of hyperbole a lot of times, but if somebody tells you, dude, she was talking to this, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Well, I believe there's something usually.
Right. And we're not saying that it's the whole conspiracy theory. Like, right. I mean, there's a lot of speculation out there, but there is something. There's something.
Yeah. Okay. So even the fact that we went,
right.
But when we went, we found things they didn't want to talk to us about because it would predate our history. It would show there was visitors. It would even maybe show our own history. Maybe we built things because we were once on Mars,
right? And
there was a terrible disaster. Maybe it's things that it would just really throw things into. We don't know, right?
Right, we don't know.
And there's a lot of people out there that would have a lot of reasons to keep us from, saying something that would maybe. And I'm not saying this is the case, but something that would bring down the church.
Right.
Okay. Especially in the 60s, right?
Right.
So if something was going to bring down religion. And you're already dealing with all these people that are protesting Vietnam, you're protesting war, and they had a lot in the 60s, late 60s, they had a lot of what they have now, okay? A lot. There was, all the kids were protesting stuff, okay, everywhere. There was violence everywhere. There was a lot of race riots, okay? Now, this is, history repeats itself, and I always talk about that.
Yes.
So if they had something really huge and unifying, to bring everybody together. Now, when that moon landing happened, everybody in the world was glued to their TV set together. And it was an overwhelming sense of pride about your nation, okay? And about mankind. Even other nations were just like this overwhelming sense of pride. I'm just saying the timing would have been perfect, and I would have done that timing to maybe, right now, we talked about it. We need something big to happen to remind everybody and pull everybody together. Right. Not a tragedy.
Right.
But
something good.
Something that pulls everybody together and everybody's like, that's awesome. When the United States hockey team beat the Russians. That pulled all the Americans.
Right.
It's these certain like moments in time you can remember, and unfortunately things like 9/11. The huge tragedy, absolutely. I don't remember there even being something close to a political party right after that. Like that wasn't talked about. You know what was talked about? Everybody wanted to go fight. Everybody wanted to pick up their gun. And do you remember that? Like us and our friends and everyone, every able body wanted to go fight. And it wasn't like you weren't going to have to draft anybody. And that was what the thought was at that time.
Right.
And I don't know if a lot of people, remember that or whatever, but that's the big thing is when these huge events happen. So the moon landing is one of those events. I don't know, man. I don't know. But it does strike me funny that the Russians, who I feel completely trollless
right,
constantly,
right,
are just come out. You know, they didn't have to say what they were doing.
No.
They could have just said, we're going to the moon.
They could have just gone and checked. And not told us they were going to check. And that way we wouldn't have had a chance to, you know.
Oh, yeah, shoot it down.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see. If,
like I said, I want to follow this one.
If there's not a really bad thing that happens to that rocket.
Well, it said in the article, you know, back in the 70s, the Soviet Union gave up on their space program because all their experimental rockets kept exploding, and they just, you know, decided to not do that.
Yeah.
So we'll be curious to see what happens. So definitely going to follow that one.
Love that one.
All right, so let's continue. And here's an awesome story. This is a story about how astronomers have spotted another star that flickers like Tabby's star.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. You know the alien megastructure star?
I don't know this one. That's cool.
So recently, astronomers using a telescope in Chile have discovered a star whose strange dimming and brightening are similar to what's happening with Tabby's star. Now, there is a difference. The difference being that this particular star actually the light drops by about 80%, where Tabby's star only goes about 20%.
Right.
So it actually dims a lot more. But the fact that they found another one that does a similar thing is very intriguing.
Does it make Tabby's less interesting?
A little bit, because if this is something that occurs in space, you know, and I believe that they've actually mentioned in this article that there is one other one that they also saw, but I think that one of those, they know the star has a planet that orbits it, and that's what causes it to dim.
So if you guys don't remember, Tabby's star is the one from a few years ago that they theorized had a possible alien megastructure built around the star.
Right, because it dimmed sporadically, like no pattern to it, no explanation, just occasionally it would dim and then get brighter and then dim, and they'd never seen that before.
Yeah, so the interesting thing for those of you who don't know, Tabby star a couple of years ago was the one that came out, and the dimming they believed was caused possibly by an alien megastructure. That was the big CNN terminology that hit all the news, was alien megastructure. And of course it was clickbait. Everybody got all over it. And it was just a hey, maybe, because it had been proposed by like Michio Kaku, you know, things with the type of civilizations, right? And what level these types of civilizations could do things with it. I believe we were like a type 0, and it goes up to type 5.
We're probably like a type -1.
Right. It's all on how much you can harness the energy supplied, right? So a type 5 is ridiculous. Like you don't want to get anywhere near a top 5. Top 5 is the Borg if you're a Star Trek fan.
That's the overlords.
Yeah.
Type 5.
So like a type 2 civilization though could have something that was a Dyson sphere. And the Dyson sphere would encompass every single inch of a star, gathering most of its energy output, transferring it to a planet for later use.
Right.
And you know, so it's a lot of that, you know, sciencey, cool algebraic stuff that we all love. But you know, the easy thing here is they thought maybe there was a Dyson sphere on Tabby's star because it had already been proposed, and you know how thoughts are when they're out in the universe, right?
Right.
They've probably happened. But having more than one, I mean, yeah, there could be a couple of Dyson spheres out there, but man, I think that makes it way less likely.
It does. And even the person that discovered Tabby's star, Tabitha, you know, was named after her. You know, she thought it was really cool. She's still not convinced that they're similar, the stars are similar, but the fact that there's more than one and that there's a potential to find more means that there is possibly a general common explanation, even though they don't know what that is. You know, they suggested a lot of things. I think dust one time, or, you know, the problem is that it's so random. You know, you would think if there was something that traveled around the star, it would be pretty, you know, not random. It would happen the same time all the time. So I don't know.
What do you think the odds are that she has like a personalized license tag that says like Tabby's car? You know,
she should if she doesn't.
And she's got, you know, I would eat it up, man.
She has pens that say Tabby's pen on it.
Well, Tabby's car was funny because it rhymes with Tabby Star, so I didn't have anything else to throw out there.
All right. Are you ready to move on?
Always.
All right. So let's move on to this next story. And I just wanted to mention this. Now, last year, this story came out, and I believe we mentioned it. I don't think we went into a lot of detail. It was about the Peruvian alien mummies that were found.
Yes, because I love Peruvian mummies.
Yes, and I think at the time everyone was like, "Oh, this is a hoax. These can't be real."
You talking about the little miniature,
the 3-fingered ones that they found in the cave, and they ended up finding like 5 of them, and it was just this very outlandish.
Right.
Okay, so. I've got this article. I'm just going to I'm going to link to this so you guys can look at it. But basically, the backstory to this was, back last summer, sometime last year.
Suddenly.
In Nazca, Peru, they found these supposed mummified aliens, 3 fingers and elongated skulls, found them in a cave. They ended up finding like 5 of them. They came out a month later and said, well, we found 5. One of them supposedly had eggs. It was just this big ordeal. And most of the scientists in Peru were like, no, this doesn't look right. It doesn't seem like it's a real thing. Everybody's just been saying that it's a hoax. So the professor, Konstantin Korotkov of St. Petersburg University in Russia, he's the one that's kind of leading this team studying these supposed alien mummies. Yes. And the group, they call themselves the Alien Project because they've been working on this
that's original.
Yeah. So the new part of this story is that they had this conference this month in November.
The Alien Conference?
Yes, and they have come out with this nearly 5-hour televised presentation on their latest findings from what they're studying about these, supposed alien mummies. And I'm going to link to this story because there's actually a link to the 5-hour presentation should you want to watch that.
Is there a bullet point version with words at the bottom and music?
I'm going to give you some highlights real quick. So there's some highlights that were pretty interesting if they are true. Basically, they came out and said that the DNA tests of the mummies show that there's no relationship to any known human or animal. Like it's supposedly completely new.
Did Ancestry DNA do it? Because if they did, I don't believe it.
They say that the bones of the mummies are hollow but rigid, sort of like bird bones, that kind of thing. That there's visible wear at the joints between the bones, which means that they were of advanced age. They were actually alive. In other words, they weren't assembled from various parts.
Right, which has happened.
Right, and they tested the bones to kind of determine that they were all the same, similar type of bone, like it wasn't different, animal parts. They did 3D scans of the insides of the mummies to show that the bones, the organs, the muscles, the fat, and the possible eggs that they found were in the proper locations, like for a living being, like everything was in the right place, and that none of the data matches any known species, making it highly likely that they are an unknown species, on an evolutionary path that is separate from humans. And they claim that the features in one of the mummies that looked like it had eggs in it, they were of varying sizes, like looking like maybe they were in different stages of development.
Wow.
So this is some of the stuff that they actually, presented at this conference. Wow. Now, in Peru, there was tons of archaeologists from universities, because this is a big deal. Like, mummies are a big deal in Peru. The Peruvian Ministry of Culture, they didn't attend. They turned down their invitation to attend. But after the presentation was over, they said that some people had changed their minds about it, but there was still plenty of disagreement. And the reason is because a lot of the other archaeologists are claiming that they're not allowed to participate in or even observe any of the studies. They can't look at the analysis of the remains.
So they're not allowing peer review.
Right. They're claiming that they didn't follow proper scientific procedures, but nobody really knows because nobody's allowed to watch it or see it or help or study it themselves or anything. They're being very secretive about it. So obviously they're saying this must be some kind of hoax because you're not letting anybody else in on the study.
All right, so it's time for my opinion here.
Yes.
Two schools of thought. If you don't allow peer review, you're probably, full of crap.
Right.
Because, you got to submit everything for peer review, so we can have more than one person agree on it.
Right.
It's just the way it's done, right?
Right.
The other hand says that in the past, nefarious things have been done to great findings to make them fall in line with what everybody wants it to be in the scientific field.
Right.
So if you were to submit your stuff for peer review, possibly they could tamper, or they could come out and say, well, this is all, they're wrong.
Right.
This was all just birds.
And just give.
Yeah. And just do what they know they're going to do.
Right.
Because they're obviously going to do that. They're not going to come out and say, because if these renegades are telling the truth, don't think that the government of the United States will not be on a Peruvian airline, paying somebody a lot of money or threatening their death to not go in there and say, hey, we looked at it and we got a lot more experience than they do, and it's all wrong. And then as the story goes away, one by one, those people die mysteriously, because, that's just what happens when people find stuff. There is a lot of mysterious causes that, it's weird how people get these weird, diseases very quickly.
Or have heart attacks.
Or their insides get microwaved. That's one of the worst colds you can get.
Right.
I don't know. So I see both sides.
Right.
And it's cool, though. That's an interesting story.
It is interesting. And it's not one that I intended to follow, because I didn't realize they were still, working on this. Some things that work against them, I think, the Constantine, the professor that's, studying these, there was one point in some of the, and I'll link to all these articles, there's several different articles. At one point he wanted to test one of the eggs from one of the mummies, but he wasn't able to unless he got the owner of the mummies to agree to let him do that. So, he doesn't own them. There's an owner that is also very secretive, even with his own team, about letting him do things, which, if you think you have a potential find of a lifetime, I guess that's a little bit understandable. Also, though, they did a couple of...
we've had people that are like that with evidence.
Yeah, that's true. They did some documentaries for Gaia, which, a little suspect, to want to do that and publicize it. But I don't know. It's strange. It's strange. And I think that there was one part in the article that said they dated the mummies to somewhere similar to when the Nazca lines were created, kind of that time period, and they were found in Nazca, Peru. So I don't know. It all seems like it's falling into place really well. Right.
And I don't, personally, I wouldn't go with aliens right off the bat. I would personally go with little people. Or, like some kind of, probably just as strange, but, we have found a lot of evidence of other humanoid type beings out there that don't really fit anywhere.
Right. Right.
So like I said before, I'm not so sure Lord of the Rings didn't happen.
Right. Right.
So you got hobbits and you got fairies and you got all these other things out there that, that's what I hope. So I don't know. It's a cool story.
It is.
More than likely, if I had to just, if they were the $1 million game show here, I would say they're full of crap.
That's what I lean toward.
Just because they're not letting people.
Right, because they're being so secretive with it. They should let somebody else get in there and study it. So I don't know. Also, you can go to the Alien Project website. They got all the data and pictures and whatever they say they've done is all up there. So I'll put links up for all that. All right, so let's move on to a spooky story.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is good. Okay, so this is a spooky story of the Titanic captain's mirror that is going up for auction in December.
Wow.
Yes, so this is about a mirror that belonged to the captain of the Titanic. And
was it on the Titanic, or did he own it when he was a kid?
No, he owned it. It's a silver-framed easel mirror.
It's not particularly scary.
Sat on his let me finish the story. You don't judge yet. The captain's name, Captain Smith, it sat on his dressing table at his house. And after the Titanic sank, Captain Smith's housekeeper, her name was Ethelwine. I like that name, Ethelwine. She was invited to choose any one item of his property as a keepsake and also in lieu of wages because, the captain had died.
And she's like, oi, do you mean on the ones I've already taken?
Well, she chose the mirror because it was silver, so it was worth money. And I guess it belonged to the captain. She was his housekeeper for a long time, so she wanted a keepsake. So that's what she took. So later on, Ethelwine's sister-in-law actually penned a letter. And they have this letter to go along with the mirror as proof. And in the note that she wrote to someone else, someone named Ida, she said that Ethelwine always spooked her when she said that at times she could still see Captain Smith's face in the mirror on the anniversary of when the Titanic sank.
Wow.
So supposedly every year, in April, you can see his face in this mirror on the anniversary of the tragedy. So
that's really cool. It's kind of like seeing Dumbledore's brother.
Yes, it's true. And it said that the last time, Captain Smith saw himself, he probably looked in that mirror that morning before he left to go sail, the ship. And so it's all, if it was something that he really cherished, obviously it could be haunted.
Thank God he wasn't a kinky guy. It's like every anniversary I see something really weird in this mirror he kept over the bed.
So it's actually going up for auction on December 12th at Richard Winterton Auctioneer's Fine and Decorative Arts Sale at the Litchfield Auction Center on December 12th.
Like to meet that guy.
Expecting it to actually fetch in excess of 10,000 pounds.
Wow.
At auction. They're really expecting it to, drum up some interest. And of course, you'll have to wait till next April to see if the legend is true, if it's really haunted.
Here's the deal. Mm-hmm. Before I pay 10,000 pounds, I would bloody well want to see
you want to see the ghost?
The mirror on the day.
Right.
Why not do the auction that day after you have like 40 cameras?
Right.
All pointed from every direction possible. Mm-hmm. EMF meters all around it for that entire day. And, why not?
I mean, it's a gamble because either someone's going to see his face and they're going to pay tons of money for it, or you're not going to see anything and, you're just going to auction off a silver mirror.
Well,
so
I do believe there's a lot of power in mirrors. Mm-hmm. I really do. Mm-hmm. It's a really strange story. I don't think I've ever told this.
Okay.
When I was a kid, spoiler alert, I was a strange child. But I remember sitting in front of the mirror in my room. Mm-hmm. And I had one of the long mirrors that hang on the door. They're not very expensive. Just a cheap little wood surrounding, 5 foot tall, hangs on your door. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting on my bed, and a lot of times after I worked out, like I would like do some push-ups, sit-ups, and I remember sitting, kind of breathing hard, but you're just like thinking. It's a good time for clarity after you work out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there, and basically I didn't realize I was, traveling or, meditating.
Right.
But I would sit, and then I would pull my legs up Indian style on my bed. And about 3 feet in front of me, I would sit and stare at this in the mirror. And I would always, even as a kid, like when I say kid, 14, 15, mm-hmm. I would try looking beyond my eyes.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like where I'm not actually looking I'm not looking at my eyes. Mm-hmm. My eyes are going that way, but I'm not focusing on anything on purpose.
I did that when I was a kid too. And I would wait for everything to get all like pixelated looking. Yeah. And I would try not to blink so it wouldn't go away.
Right.
Yeah. I used to do it all the time. I used to do it in school. This is why. Yeah. This is why I was spaced out in school.
So I'm looking, mm-hmm. and I would see things change. Like I would see a lot of things happen. Mm-hmm. And something else, you're talking about that, something else weird I used to do. Mm-hmm. And I did this in school. I would see, like, if I'm staring at something, mm-hmm. if I'm staring at one object, this is so crazy. I'll see these little like bullets mm-hmm. go toward that object. Mm-hmm. Like I'll see these little like
right,
like almost like dotted lines.
Right.
And I'll see them going and traveling toward the object I'm looking at if I do it long enough.
Right.
And so there's a lot of weird there. But the thing with the mirror, I just remember Because later on, when I started studying paranormal and finding out about mirrors and stuff, I started thinking, man, the energy I put into that mirror. I bet you I haunted the damn thing.
Maybe mirrors kind of weird me out anyway. Like, I don't know. I've always had that sense, like, when I look in a mirror, there's going to be something else there besides me.
I do too. Know. I always believe there's something. I believe it's so strange. I believe it too. Like, there's a mirror behind you right now, and it wouldn't surprise me if a woman in a black veil like poked her head over to the side
I know.
And looked out. And I'm right with you on that. It's very strange that you kind of did the same thing with the mirrors as a child.
I did. It's funny because you talk about this mirror that's in our bedroom. You notice I have things sitting in front of it because it keeps me from looking directly into the mirror. So I don't know. It's strange.
All right.
So anyway, mirror up for auction. I would not be surprised if we weren't doing an article in December that Zach Baggins has bought this mirror from auction, because that's the kind of thing he likes. Haunted things like that.
Absolutely.
That have historical significance.
Oh, yeah. I hope he does so we can see it.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool, actually. He would actually let you know if it happened on April 14th. All right, so let's move on. This is just kind of a story about a really cool discovery in space, and it's about how the Earth has 2 extra hidden, quote, moons.
Wow. What's a quote moon?
They're not actual moons. They're places where there could possibly have been moons that are now big clouds of dust.
Oh.
Yes. So it's just kind of a cool discovery. It's something that was actually noticed back in 1961 by a Polish astronomer whose last name was Collusion. And so they're called these clouds. He said, I've seen these clouds. Yes. But they actually have just recently been confirmed that they really are there. Like, they're very hard to see, and nobody has ever been able to see them because the dust particles are so faint.
How the hell did Collusion see them?
He got a glimpse of them. I think it has to be like the light has to be just right. You got to be looking at a certain angle.
I bet that drove him nuts. Because you couldn't show anybody else.
Well, I believe that, he was studying...
Collusion.
There are 5 points around the Earth.
Back on the brewskis.
They're called Lagrange points, where the gravitational pull from the Earth and the sun is just right to hold like a satellite in place, like a moon or something like that. And they talk about using those points for interstellar travel to put, for places to stop where you would use minimal fuel because you would be held in that particular spot. So, they know about these points. And supposedly this, astronomer saw these dust clouds decades ago, was like, I've seen these and people have talked about them, but they have just recently been confirmed. They did actually see them. And now that they know they're there and they know how to, they use like a special filter to be able to see them. Now that they know how to see them, they can actually study them and perhaps get some, more information on that area in space to help when they decide to do the interstellar travel or put satellites there or telescopes or whatever they want to do.
How strange is that? I mean,
isn't that crazy?
The ramifications of this story could be huge because Earth is in the perfect spot. It's got the perfect placed moon. Everything just happens to line up exactly correct for life to flourish. For everything has to be perfect. Okay,
right.
There's so many high or the probability is so low on everything lining up the way it did for us that it really puts the grand design you're kind of like, wow. So the dust clouds, though, of where there was moons.
Well, they're not saying that there was actually a moon there.
Right.
Like, they don't know that. I mean, I guess it could have been.
Well, I was getting to the point of what if it wasn't conducive to life?
Right.
At some point, and some people came here and destroyed the things that were making it non-conducive.
Exactly. I was going to make that point. And also because, the moon that we do have, there's so much wild speculation sometimes about that it's not really a moon.
Yeah.
What if, that's there and they're like, we can't have these other things because it's going to mess up
throw it off.
Right. So, yes, I was going to make that point as well. I thought that was pretty interesting that... there is something there, and maybe there was something, I I think even before they saw the dust clouds, they had speculated that Earth had other satellites in the past, millions and millions of years ago or whatever. But none of that could ever be confirmed.
Well, with the asteroid belt and stuff, I mean, there's a lot. There's a prevailing theory that we came from Mars,
right?
The way that the water was there, and maybe we had a way to get away from Mars, and that there was a collision of planets, and even going with there's a lot of wild theories out there, and a lot of them make sense. I mean, they really do. That's really interesting, though.
Well, I thought that, especially for people, I know we have a lot of listeners that are really interested in astronomy and the space thing. So I thought that was pretty cool. Definitely, I'll link to that. And there's a lot more explanation in the article about exactly how they found it, and
it's like the
what they're going to be doing
like the Black Knight satellite. I wish we could find out more about that thing.
Yeah. See, why don't they study that?
That's been up there forever. Or, the bridge that was on the moon in the 1800s. I mean, stuff like that drives me nuts.
I know. All right. Well, let's move on. So this next story is actually kind of interesting. It's just an article about how looters in the Middle East, like treasure hunters, they actually turn to spirit possession to try and find gold treasure. And when I say spirit possession, I mean they're trying to invoke the jinn.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's so crazy. So a lot of the looters and treasure hunters, in the Middle East, they believe that the Ottoman Empire, way long time ago, they left behind gold as it retreated from the Middle East. And so supposedly there are a lot of archaeological sites that get looted, and people just go out and they try to find all these different areas where there could possibly be gold. So the man that wrote this article, there was a lot of interviews with a lot of different, treasure hunters and archaeologists, and asked them, what do you do to try and find this gold? And a lot of them claim that they go and visit sorcerers or sheiks that, have experience with rituals and things like that. They have them conjure the jinn.
Yeah.
And then a lot of looters will try to purposely be possessed in hopes that the jinn will tell them where the gold is hiding, because it is their belief that the jinn protect the gold.
Right.
Where it's at. A lot of times when people hide gold, they ask for, a jinn to protect it so that nobody can take it. And so it's really a very prevalent practice, more than you would think.
So the problem there is, they probably do know where the gold is. And yes, you can contact the jinn. The problem with that is they're going to trick you.
Exactly.
You're going to get the gold, but then you're going to die. Or you're going to, there's always a trick. Don't, never trust a demon. That should be my children's book I write.
Right, there you go. Well, in this article, it says that the looters that actually undergo the spirit possession claim that they experience memory loss, and that you can't do it too many times or there's negative effects, obviously.
Like elephant tusk up your ass when you wake up.
And this article, I believe this article was on Live Science. They said that they conducted their own investigation and determined that no one has really ever found gold that has tried using the jinn to find the gold.
Live Science did their own investigation. Do you think they had some intern like, Timmy, yes. Do you like it here at Live Science? Yeah. I really want it to be at IFL Science because it says it's kind of cool. Yeah, we know. But how would you like to do something really cool, Timmy? Oh, I'd love to. Well, have you ever heard of the jinn? The jinn? No, I've never heard of the jinn. Well, we got a trip for you and it's all expenses paid. All we need you to do is read the last page of this book and go stand in front of this cave and, ask. And Timmy's never seen again. So
right.
3 weeks later, they're like, well,
he didn't find any gold. Possibly.
Either that or Timmy's now world famous rapper, Tim 2.
Well, it's funny because a lot of the treasure hunters there, a lot of the people that do that, they believe that the jinn also leave signs of where they should look, and they just have to pay attention to the signals that have been left. So I just thought it was an interesting story that people would go to that length. But yes, no, don't trust the jinn.
Never.
Don't trust the jinn.
No offense to you, jinn, but I don't trust anything named jinn.
I don't think that if they're there to protect the gold, they're not going to tell you where it is.
No.
I mean, that's adverse to their job.
No, I mean, they're going to tell you, but I mean, it's just
see that deep hole right there with the snakes in it? Yeah, go in there.
There's just always a trick. There is always a trick.
All right, well, let's move on. So this next story is about how Catholic exorcisms are on the rise. Now, we've done stories about this, about how they've been training new exorcists and how they claim that, there's more demand than there used to be. So this particular article starts off talking about how more people today actually believe in exorcism than they used to, and in demon possession and that sort of thing, and how back in 2011, the United States had fewer than 15 known Catholic exorcists, but now there's probably in excess of 100.
Right.
There are so many. And they talked to a Father
it's all
Vincent.
Those damn exorcism movies.
Father Vincent Lampert. He's the official exorcist for the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. And he claimed, early in October, that he'd already received 1,700 requests this year.
Wow.
1,700, which is by far the most he's ever gotten in 1 year. And that was just in early October.
Hellas Hoosiers.
Yeah, that was before Halloween.
Yeah.
So, it's probably double that now. I don't know. But, it's just a really interesting article, and it talks about different books that they use. They had the books that the priests use has actually been translated into English now because there's so much demand for it. You can actually... They published a book of prayers that they actually sell to the public. So they don't sell the book with the procedure in it, but there is a book that they'll sell to the public that has different prayers and things in it that you can do,
Do you think
yourself.
It works as well in English?
I don't know. I would think so if the intention is the same.
I don't think I would want the priest that did it in English.
I don't know.
I think I'd be upset.
I want the real thing.
Can you imagine being a low-level demon and you already feel kind of bad about yourself, and you're always being shunned by the the demons with the bigger horns or the longer strap-ons or whatever, and you've taken your first soul and you're all excited, and you've wrote help me on the stomach and all this.
You've done all the normal demonic
all
possession
all
things.
the stuff things, and then you get
think they have a checklist.
Yeah, and then you hear that the priest is coming and you're like, oh, I've done the priest, I'm doing good. And then he shows up and it's hi, I'm Father Paul, and I've got this book and it's like the dummy's guide to exorcism, hear ye, oh, demon from hell, I mean, I would be so upset. And if I was a demon.
If you were a demon, of course.
I want all the pomp and circumstance.
Exactly.
I want I want the scary crosses and, the oil looking crosses and stuff. And I want... I want...
you want the whole 9 yards?
Well, I want holy water from the River Jordan. I want,
I'm pretty sure they all use holy from the River Jordan.
I mean, I want some cool stuff, man.
You want the top-notch exorcism. And another cool part of this story was it talks about how the Catholic priests use a process called discernment, to determine if somebody needs an exorcism, and how that includes, like we've talked about before, that the person has to go through a psychiatric evaluation to make sure that they don't have some kind of, psychiatric problem, which, it is good because a lot of times people just go off their medicine and, then they think that they're possessed. But, how do you know, if you have someone that's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, how do you know that's really what that is? That's just I
believe that there are mental health institutions that are filled with people that are have demons occupying them, because they want to feel more than anything. A demon wants to feel alive. They want to feel skin. They want to feel pleasure and pain, even pain. They just want to feel because they've not ever been in
they just want to feel alive.
Yeah, they've never had that feeling, and they hate us for that. They can't stand us for that. And so a lot of times that whole devil made me do it thing, I believe it, okay, and especially I don't like mental health institutions in the first place.
Right.
I just don't. I don't think we're far enough removed. People get up in arms about all this stuff, right? They get up in arms about so many things. You rarely hear people get up in arms and talk about the atrocities that happened 20 years ago in places, and God forbid throwing your wife in a mental institution because she farted at dinner.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was things like that, and then they're thrown away forever. So I truly believe that a lot of times there is possession involved. I believe that in, you know, some of the investigations we've had before, that where supposedly somebody was crazy or whatever, that there could have been, because we know the house was haunted,
Right.
and there could have been some kind of possession. So chicken or the egg is basically my thing.
Well, and I'm not saying that there aren't people that have psychiatric issues. You know, I'm not saying that that's not a thing.
Yeah, it is.
But even in this article, this Father Lambert, he was talking about, you know, this young man who came to him one time and he wanted an exorcism because he felt like that he, you know, was being possessed, and they told him no, that he was just experiencing symptoms of schizophrenia. And, you know, the young man was really upset. He was like, you know, you tell me that I'm schizophrenic, but you can't tell me why I'm schizophrenic. You know, at least if I'm possessed, I know why this is happening. You know, it's a demon. I have a reason. And, you know, and it was really upsetting to him that he didn't have his reason why what was going on with him was what was going on. So I don't know. It's a fine line. It seems to me that, you know, people like that, you know, do the exorcism, even if they're not, you know, give them a chance to maybe feel better. So
kind of like a placebo effect, you know, just do it to
make them think,
to appease them and see
if it helps.
See if it helps. You know, what's the worst thing that could happen, right?
Right. And if it doesn't help, then, you know, I mean, I guess the fear is that you'll end up doing more harm to them mentally than
possibly. I mean, you know what? If you got true schizophrenia, you're seeing things anyway.
Right.
I mean, it could terrify them to death. I don't know, man.
It's a really tough situation to be in.
There's a lot of liability there.
There is. I agree.
You know, I don't know. I would not like to be in the position of having to decide whether or not this is something we need to do.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Hell, really because of stuff like placebo. You know, I mean, because if somebody believes that they're strongly enough, we know how powerful the brain is. We talk about it all the time.
Right.
If somebody believes strongly enough that they are possessed, then I bet they could have superhuman strength. I bet things could happen in their body. You know, short of speaking in tongues, but you never know, man. It's like people waking up with foreign accents and stuff, you know?
Right.
The brain's very powerful.
It is very powerful, but interesting article anyway, and just go and take a look at that. All right, so let's move on. And this is a story about a supposed alien skull that was found in North China. So this amateur UFO scholar in China is convinced that he is in possession of an alien skull.
That's really cool.
Yes, he's a science fiction author and researcher. And
is he?
Yes. And he had a small seminar last month.
Next.
And he was showing this skull. Now, I'm going to link to this article, but I'm also going to link to a video because there's not a picture of the skull in the article. You actually have to go to the video to see the skull moved around. It's very weird and unusual. I will give him that. And, you know, he did produce this 103-page report to support his claim. He did research on it for months, and he said he conducted a Raman spectroscopy. I don't know, used an atomic force microscope
and some ramen noodles,
and compared the skull with alien skulls that had been discovered in other countries. You know, he did some comparisons, but he's seeking funding to conduct further tests. He wants to do DNA analysis, but it's very expensive, you know, and it's just him doing the research. So, and you know, he's been facing ridicule for this on social media, but he is adamant and he's standing by his findings. He is convinced that he has found this alien skull, and it does look a little weird. I couldn't just come right out and say what I thought it was. Like, it doesn't look like anything I'd ever seen before. So definitely go and look at the video, see what you think.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, weirder things have happened.
They happen all the time. ParanormalSideshow.com. Go check it out for yourself and see what you think.
All right, so speaking of videos circulating on social media, this is a video that is kind of an update. Do you remember back when we were talking about the supposed gargoyle that had been flying around killing animals?
Absolutely, I remember that.
Yes, it was like
one
back
of our
in
bloodsuckers.
August. It was like Barcelona. So there was these tales. Remember we talked about how people were going to go out and look for it?
Yeah.
And that was the end of the thing.
Yeah.
So now this video
because I joked we'd never see those people again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this video has popped up that claims that they have found the skull of the infamous gargoyle. They're claiming that what they have is the skull of this gargoyle.
Hopefully they're not missing a neighborhood dog.
Well, of course, there's lots
and a
of
bedazzler.
speculation about it. You know, it does look very suspicious, and it is just a video. They're at an undisclosed location. They're just sort of, an anonymous group posted it. They're just kind of showing bones. So probably not the infamous gargoyle, but very interesting. Go watch it anyway. It's kind of funny that they, went through all the trouble to...
I believe the flying humanoid stuff. I mean, I always have, that's always been one of my things that's drawn to me. The Mothman of Chicago, that's going on up there with all the murders. And they always are around. They're always spotted around weird things. You go all the way back to Point Pleasant. There was one, allegedly on 9/11. And so I believe in those things. I believe that they're harbingers of death.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I don't think we would find a skull.
No.
I believe they're supernatural beings. So something we don't understand.
Right.
And maybe they're good. Maybe they're bad. I don't know. Maybe they're there to bring multiple souls to a certain location.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, these people claim that they found these bones inside a cave. And until, someone brings them forward and lets them be tested, you don't actually really know. They could have found some kind of weird animal. Maybe they really did find it, and they're just thinking that this is what it is.
Well, you've said that before. A lot of times maybe people find something really amazing. It's not what they wanted to find.
Right, but it doesn't mean it's not amazing.
That's the whole reason we watch Ancient Aliens.
Exactly.
It's not their story they're trying to tell us. It's the cool things we haven't seen, I wish somebody would just make a show where they're like, deep in Peru, there's this cool rock without any conjecture.
Right, without trying to decide what it is. Yeah. Just look at this cool thing that we found.
Yeah, ancient. Let's call it Ancient You Decide.
You could use the announcer from Ancient Aliens because he's very good at asking questions.
God, I love that guy. I wish that guy narrated my life because he does Oak Island too, which is our favorite show like that.
Right.
But I would love to have that guy where he's like, a coin? A coin with a Roman ass on the coin?
You just wanted to be in the kitchen like, a peanut butter sandwich lunch?
It's got to be that voice. Like, you got to say something like, you know what? I believe I'm going to have a Hot Pocket for breakfast. A Hot Pocket for breakfast? And not a Hot Pocket that's got eggs in it, but pepperonis? I
love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
I bet he had to practice to perfect that question asking, narrating thing.
Do you think that guy has like a lot of cats and just? I mean, could you have a relationship? I mean, could you both boobies at once for me?
Oh wow. Okay. Anyway. All right, so let's move on. And it's story time.
Yay.
Nice, cool, supernatural story time.
It's almost #mommy daddy time.
We're getting there.
I can only sit here and stare at you for that so long.
So this is a story, an article that was posted recently about an event that happened a few years ago, but it's a very cool story, and so I wanted to tell it because it's very interesting. All right, so this story is from Decatur, Alabama.
Oh.
And this is about something that happened back in 2013, in November of 2013. So, about 5 years ago. So this is about a man named Ricky Gardner. And Ricky Gardner, he loved to hunt. Loves to go hunting. And so one day back in November of 2013, he decided that he was going to go out. It was like hunting season had just started. It was a nice day. He was off work. He's like, I'm going to go out and I'm not going to waste the day. I'm
wear
my
Alabama hat.
Exactly. He just got a new 4-wheeler. He's going to go out on the land.
Roll Tide.
Now he lived by himself. He wasn't nobody was expecting to see him until the next day. And he didn't tell anybody where he was going. And, he went out and he was expected to be gone about 30 minutes. But when he got to the end of a hilltop, he spotted another ridge that he wanted to examine. And so instead of backtracking, he thought he'd be quick about it and just kind of go down the hillside on his new 4-wheeler that he wasn't really used to, which was a lot of mistakes happening here, as you can see. So he thinks he accidentally hit his brakes instead of what he was meaning to hit. The 4-wheeler tipped over. He went flying. He didn't want the 4-wheeler to land on him, so he jumped. And he ended up going down 15 yards down a steep mountain, broke his leg. and, was just tumbling and tumbling, very hurt. So, the first thing that came to his mind was that it was really cold. It was like in the 20s. It was supposed to rain all night. There was high winds. He could not move. He could not climb back up the hill. His leg completely broken. He was in trouble. So he just sat up against his four-wheeler. He got he ended up being able to reach some briar plants. He'd seen deer eat them, so he knew they were safe to eat. He stuffed those in his pocket. He had a Mountain Dew, and he drank that, and then he cut the can open and catch rainwater. Like, he was very smart about his survival skills. He tried to just sort of wait it out and hope that somebody came to look for him. So after that night, it got really dark. It was so dark he couldn't see his hand in front of his face. Like, he was not prepared to be out there at night. He could hear coyotes. He said he had like a stick, and he just sort of sat there and was hoping nothing came up on him. So the next morning, he felt weaker, but he was still okay. And a friend of his that was supposed to meet him the next day, named Randy Coffee, he began to worry about him because he had tried to call Ricky and nobody had answered. He wasn't responding to any messages at all. So about 9 p.m. that night, Randy was like, okay, I'm just going to go to the house because something's going on. And he got there. Ricky's truck was in the driveway. His wallet was there. His keys were there. It was not the way it should be. So Randy called Ricky's brother. And they got some more friends, and they're like, look, we need to look for him. Obviously, something's happened. We don't know where he is. And so they started searching. They split up, and they searched the property, and they met back at the house at 1 a.m. So now it's 1 a.m. the next night. And nobody had seen him or heard anything, and they were just about to give up when all of a sudden they saw this light across the way. And they're like, well, there's an old road over there. It's like 4 or 5 miles away, but there's that light. Let's go check it out. And so they made their way over there, and they couldn't really see. They didn't see any tracks. They didn't see any reason to think that he went that way, but there was that light. And so they just followed it, and they kept following it until they couldn't see it anymore. Eventually the light vanished. And so whenever the light went away, they stopped wherever they were, and Ricky's brother yelled out for him, called out for his name. And it just so happens that the place that they stopped was exactly where he tumbled down the cliff. So when he called his name, Ricky heard him. He's like, hey, I'm down here, and so they went down to get him, and they were like, well, thank God you were shining that light so we could find you. And Ricky's like, I don't have a light. He's like, I wasn't prepared to be out here. And they said, well, was it the headlight on the four-wheeler? And he said, no, it was daytime. I don't have any light. There was no light. Nobody could explain where the light came from. But that's how they found him. So the ambulance came and they got him out of there. It took like an hour. Took him to the hospital, and they took him into surgery immediately. His leg was like 3 times the size it should have been. And the doctor said that if it had been any longer, he would have lost his leg. Like, they came within an inch of not being able to save it. Like, it was very desperate. So they fixed his leg, and he had to actually spend some time in the hospital and use a walker for a while, trying to learn how to, do therapy with his leg. And it just so happened that while he was in the hospital, he had a stroke because he had a hole in his heart. And it wasn't something that was caused by the accident. It was something that he had before. But had he not had the accident and been in the hospital and been there when that happened, it would have killed him. So this whole big story just happened where, he had this accident. His brother miraculously found him with this mysterious light, and it just so happened that he had this unmedical problem that was fixed because of everything that happened.
That's interesting. That's
crazy?
Amazing.
Yes.
I'm sitting here drawn into it and thinking the whole time, what do you think it is?
I don't know, because the story doesn't go into whether or not he had any relatives that maybe could have helped him from the other side,
like a grandfather.
I don't know if the house he lived in belonged to his family, or if that property was family owned, or if it was, it doesn't go into those kind of details, because it's just a story about how this mysterious beam of light showed up.
I don't think it was him that was projecting, because he didn't know they were looking for him. So
right, and his energy was very depleted.
I believe that it was definitely a spirit that was with him, and more than likely family, but it could have just been a guide.
Right.
I don't mean just a guide, but it could have been a guide.
Could have been.
But that is a beautiful side of paranormal.
Yes, and I thought it was interesting as well too. I know he had this terrible accident and he hurt himself and all these things happened, but what if that was something that, because he did something he wouldn't normally do. He went down a hillside. That's not something he would normally have done. Normally he would have backtracked and
something forced him to do.
But it's like almost like something forced him to do this, and he got hurt, and that caused him to be in the hospital when he had this other traumatic thing that happened that normally would have.
I love the way you think. And you always think that way. And I wish more people thought like you, because it's just like those guys when they saw that light. There are so many lights that you see every day. Okay. And I'm being figurative here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But so many lights, boys and girls, that are in the woods for us daily. And a lot of times we see them and we go on with our busy life instead of following that light and checking it out and hollering for Ricky. Obviously, I'm not being literal here.
Right.
Okay? I'm using this metaphorically because I think it's important. The one thing out of 20 years of being in the paranormal that I can tell you as a fact is that there are signs, and there are signs every day that you need to follow. There are little things, big things, and the spirit world wants to help, and they want to tell you things. They really do. They want to tell you things, but you have to be willing to listen, and you have to be clever and smart enough to notice and not dismiss, because we're very dismissive because we're trained to be dismissive. But if you see the door open, or your watch goes missing, or I got one for you. God, there's so many in this house, but I didn't have my razor for weeks, and I really needed my razor. And all of a sudden, right at the moment I needed it worse, it popped up. There was another one the other day.
Yeah, it was the deodorant. Oh my goodness. We went to the store and you were out of deodorant and you were like, I need to buy some deodorant. So we bought some. And I know that I bought it because, we went over there and grabbed it, and, we were had a discussion about it. Yeah. And so the next day you were like, where's my new deodorant? And I was like, well, it should be in the bathroom. That's where I put all that stuff when I bring it home. And so you looked in the bathroom, you're like, it's not in here.
Yeah.
And so I went in the bathroom and I looked and I opened all the drawers, and, there wasn't anything on the counter. It was just, I
actually
in there.
Accused the fact that we left a bag there.
Yeah. He was like, are you sure we didn't leave a bag at the store? And I was like, no, it was in a bag with other stuff. And I know that, when we unpack the groceries, I always have all the stuff that goes upstairs, and I take it all upstairs and I put it away. And so I was like, I know that we got that. I even looked at the receipt. I was like, look, it's on the receipt. I know that we bought it. And so we actually went the next day and bought a new thing of it because you were out. And so I brought that home, and I had it downstairs. I hadn't brought it upstairs yet. And so you took it, and you were going to go take a shower, and you went upstairs and you came back down with the deodorant that we had bought. And you were like, when did you find this? And I was like, I didn't find it. If I had found it, we wouldn't have bought new deodorant. He was like, it was sitting on the counter.
On the counter.
Right where the drawers are, where we both opened the drawers and looked. All the drawers, how a bathroom counter is. Right there, right where you couldn't miss it.
Yeah, on top the counter.
Yeah, where there isn't anything else.
We don't have a messy bath. Stacey cleans daily. And so the countertop to the his and her sink in there, it's always clean, like everything in a place. Right. So there's nothing ever laying just about.
We keep everything in drawers.
Yeah, in drawers or in cups. And so this was just sitting there, like, hi, we were just playing. And now this isn't one of those things I'm saying you need to look for these things daily. When I say that, I'm talking about you find a Hindu elephant figurine outside your house. Right. This is, we have things that screw with us for fun. Yes. And it's never really harmful. It cost me $2 for that joke. Right. But it was there. Maybe there's a story to it, maybe not. I don't know. But that happens to us all the time, and they love doing it to Stacey. Because I'm just telling you, man, this is something that happens to us all the freaking time. Does it happen to you guys? Because I want to know, does that ever happen to any of you? I know when I ask this, I usually get about 10,000 letters.
Well, the thing is you have to think about it, because it's like you said, people are dismissive. Maybe they don't notice it's happening to them. Like maybe you can't find your car keys one day and you look everywhere for them, and then all of a sudden there they are. But you looked there, and they weren't there, but now they're there. And so you're just like, oh, I must have just missed it. No,
Right.
maybe you didn't just miss it. Maybe they really weren't there and now they're there.
Yeah.
And something's just messing with you.
Yeah. Well, the thing that bothered me about the deodorant is we absolutely tore the place apart.
Yes.
And
yes.
like I told Stacey, I said, this had to be in another dimension. Like in my mind, something that maybe was always sitting there, but in another dimension sitting there.
Right.
I know that's weird, but it wasn't in this house.
No, it was not in this house.
It was not in this house. It wasn't in that bathroom.
Right.
And-
And I even asked the girls, and they had no idea.
Nobody. You got to understand. Nobody in our house would screw with. We know better.
Yeah, because that stuff happens. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't play like that.
Yeah, we don't. We trust. See, the biggest thing in our house is trust. You can't lie about hearing something or seeing something because we have to trust each other because so much weird crap happens.
Yes.
So
And a lot of it's significant.
Yeah,
so.
significant stuff that matters. But yeah, that's a pretty cool story. I love your story. Thank you for that.
well,
Where
good.
did you happen to find the Ricky story from Alabama?
It was just in a. I found it online. It's just a religion and values. It's just like a nice piece that somebody wrote for I guess their local paper or whatever. I don't know. I'll link to it. It's
Well, no,
really
I just the only reason I asked is it was a very it's interesting. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, whenever I search for news, I use keywords.
Yeah.
And one of the keywords I like to use is mysterious, and this happened to have mysterious
I thought
in
maybe
the headline.
Alabama was.
No, I don't search just Alabama. Yeah. It's not always paranormal news when you do that.
You're probably going to find some.
All right, so
Roll
I've got
Tide.
a few more stories for the end of the show. Your favorite stories. Yes. So this one, you're going to love this first one. Okay, so this is a story about the Dyatlov Pass because we haven't talked about that enough.
Oh my God.
Because we haven't talked about that enough. I know. But this is about a researcher in Russia. I don't know what it is about.
What is it about Russia?
They're on the ball this week. I don't know.
I'm calling it right now. This is the Collusion episode.
So this is an investigator named Valentin Degtyarev, and he is.
Is it not Valentino?
No, there's no O on the end.
No.
No O on the end. But he's an investigator that's actually really studied the Dyatlov Pass stuff. He's really interested in it, and he has reportedly claimed to have found evidence by way of Google Earth.
Oh, boy.
Let me just point that
Hey,
out.
there's a lot of people finding a lot of crazy stuff there.
Of an impact crater that measuring nearly 100 feet in diameter, less than 2 miles from where the hikers died. And based on some historical reports and some of the evidence, he feels like he speculates, I should say, that they ultimately were killed due to a mishap involving some type of nuclear rocket that was flying too low that may have struck that nobody knew about, that sort of thing. He's hoping to journey in the spring to the area where the supposed crater is to verify. To verify, do an on-site examination. And he feels like that's a valid explanation, maybe, for what happened. That maybe it was just, a weapons test that went wrong and they were there and.
Yeah, that one's been real popular lately.
Yeah. Now, they say that it bears noting that this is not the first time he's noticed something, quote, earth-shattering on Google Earth, that back in 2015, he claims to have spotted a downed UFO in Antarctica, which is something a lot of people claim, but it turned out being a crevice in the rock.
Right.
So, could be something, might not be anything. He is planning on going to check it out, though.
Right. Well, okay. Poop on that.
I knew you'd love that one.
It was not a rocket gone awry.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Dyatlov Pass was an alien freaking abduction that somehow included a Yeti.
And it all went wrong.
Nothing else makes sense.
It's an alien party, and it got out of hand.
And the Yetis were involved.
Yeah.
I mean, it just
doesn't the party always get a hand when the Yetis are involved?
Oh, when the Yetis show up.
Yeah.
Then oh God, look who's here. Hey guys, how's it going? Funny that they don't know I'm with you.
The aliens don't even want to abduct people. It's the Yetis.
Yeah.
They make them do it. They get them drunk, and they're like, "Let's go abduct some people."
Yeah.
Peer pressure and all.
Absolutely. I hope the Yetis have googly eyes.
I'm sure they did.
I really do.
I just want them to all look like the Bumble.
Of course.
All right, let's move on. So here's kind of a little update about the woman that was on, British TV talking about how she has had
ghost lover?
relations with a bunch of different ghosts.
Oh my God, sorry. I got that one.
Yeah, she's done with real men. She's been having these flings with these, supernatural affairs, she calls them, at least 20 paranormal beings. Well, now...
Does she have to be a slut about it?
Now she's engaged. She's not anymore. She is engaged to a spirit, supposedly.
Does she know his name?
She said that she went on a work trip in February to Australia. This is what happens when you go to Australia. And she said that, she was away on business and that she was walking through the bush, just enjoying nature. Yes. And she suddenly felt this incredible energy and that she actually heard his voice. Like it was something
I hope it's
that had never happened before. And that she thinks that this relationship is much more satisfying and that she even they even had relations on the flight home, that she claims she's a member of the Mile High Club now. Because yeah. So she said her friends and family are very supportive. They've embraced her unusual engagement and that she's planning on having a pagan ceremony to have the wedding.
And, I normally have all these
lover
jokes and puns, and I was going to use some what's some of the Australian names for like some of the stuff, like their diggery do or whatever, and all this stuff. I was going to say he must have
you can't even make jokes about it though.
Because it's already there. It's already, because it's so satisfying. It's already there, and. All right, look, it happens. Mm-hmm. There's incubus and succubus, and it's normally a very bad experience.
It is.
The problem I have with this woman is, go read The Entity, okay?
Right.
Go read this a book based on this true story, okay? There are people that are sexual victims of demonic spirits, and it's very rare, but the cases are there,
right?
Whether it's a case of them just believing that or what, but there have been scientific studies that it really seems like they were attacked. There's scratches on their thighs, there's pressure, they're held down on the bed,
right?
It's
terrifying.
Every time it happens, it's traumatic, it's terrifying, and for me, this makes light of all those poor women and men who have been attacked.
Well, and the fact that this TV show is promoting, her ability to tell her story.
Yeah, what I'm afraid of is a sexually frustrated 15-year-old girl.
Right.
Who wants to experience something, okay? Because you know how kids are, right?
Right.
Sits there and tries conjuring with their Ouija board because they want to open themselves up to have sex with this ghost,
right?
Because what could go wrong,
right?
And you see what I'm saying, and
yes.
it really, that bothers me because it opens you up for so much, and not just like a normal Ouija board experience. When you open yourself up in a sexual way, a lot of time that seals the deal with many. Like there's such a thing as sex magic, and it's very powerful. And way more powerful. It's just the whole Mother Earth,
energy thing.
Energy thing. So that kind of stuff, I just don't like it because I know I always keep the jury out with people. Right. But I don't believe her. No. I just don't believe her because I don't think that these spirits would go. I just don't think that would happen. Right. And I hate to do that. I hate to say that.
Right. Well, I mean, you can have your opinion.
It's my opinion. I'm not saying it's not.
No, that's true. I mean, she may be experiencing something. Yeah. You never know. We don't know her personally. But there you are. She's engaged. So I'm sure we'll find out when she has her wedding from the same TV show. Right. All right. So just two more stories here. This first one I've got is because it's very funny and it's from Maine. So we love Maine stories. It's about an ATM machine that was found in the Maine woods, and nobody knows where it came from.
Okay, that's weird.
It is weird. And so the Hancock County Sheriff's Office wants to know if anybody's lost an ATM recently. And what happened was a woman was out for a walk, and she just, came across this ATM machine in the morning, and she called the police department. She's like, look, this doesn't look right. And so the police went out there to check, and they were like, it just looked like it was sitting there just, if a hunter wanted to get a cup of coffee or something in the morning, there's the ATM machine. It had not been broken into. Or does, normally if they'd been stolen, and people had tried to take the money out, it would be demolished or broken into. It was just sitting there. Nobody reported one being stolen or missing. So one clue to the strange ATM is that they did plug it in and it doesn't work. So I think their working theory now is that somebody was trying, it was a discontinued model, somebody was trying to get rid of it. So they thought it'd be funny, so they just set it up on the edge of the woods instead of disposing of it properly. Like they wanted to throw it away, so they just
was there money in it?
Put it in the woods. They don't know. They didn't break it open. He's trying to find out who the owner is via the serial number and that sort of thing. And he actually said that, I'm prepared to go along with this humor up to a point. If you're the owner and you left it out there, call me. I won't charge you with littering. I just want you to come get it and dispose of it properly. So I don't know if they're going to eventually see if there's any money in it or anything, if they can't find the owner.
How strange would it be?
It's just very strange.
I mean, it's weird. It just looks weird. How weird would it be if it was like from, the bills were like from 10 years ago? And
yeah, I wish they would open it, but they haven't yet because they want to try and find the owner first. But I just thought that was really funny that it was just, I wish.
What if the bills are from 2020?
Ooh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be some
That'd
cool?
be crazy.
That'd be awesome.
I wish someone had come across it when there was like an animal standing there, because that would have just made it even better. If there was like a moose standing there, ATM machine.
Freaking Bigfoot. Like, oh, dang
That'd be great. That'd be great.
They finally figured out how we do it.
All right, last story. And this one's just going to hit a personal note. It's about a woman in Pittsburgh who was cited for careless driving because she pulled onto the railroad tracks and her car got stuck. And when the police came, she wasn't drunk. She wasn't on any kind of medication. She just said, look, my GPS told me to go this way, so she went that way.
Oh, my God.
Onto the railroad tracks.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Yes, our GPS does that kind of crap all the time.
Anybody who's watched our vlogs, okay, it's not a joke. I name on my GPS. I've got Peggy and Bonnie. Okay, Peggy is on my phone. Bonnie's the vehicle GPS. And Bonnie is a murderous bitch.
She tries to send us down these horrible dead end
Peggy is fine, but Bonnie always takes me all these weird places. Like, she takes me the weird route. It's not the fastest route.
No.
It's a strange, dark, dank road.
Yes.
And she'll and literally has said, turn left now. And it's washed out bridge.
Yeah.
Or there's no turn
there. Like,
there.
it's just the woods. Weren't you and Raja going somewhere and she wanted you to drive over a footbridge?
Yeah.
It wasn't even 4 cars. It was just like a little footbridge. You're like,
Yeah, no, I'm convinced my GPS is trying to murder me. And
we did that one. We were out in the middle of the night doing that vlog, and it was trying to take us down this dead end road. It actually said like dead end. And we were like,
it was like Tucker and Dale Road.
No,
it was pretty. So. I'll tell you a funny story here. That is crazy. And thank you for the news, by the way. It was fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'll tell you a funny story here. I'm going to tell you a Raja story since you brought it up.
Okay.
So if anybody's ever played the game, if any of you are gamers and you've played the game State of Decay, it's a fun game. If you haven't played it, you should play it if you like zombie survival stuff. On the game, sometimes people in your camp, it's like Walking Dead, and sometimes people in your camp will get angry or cabin fever, and your job as being a leader is to take them out on a zombie hunt, or take them out and just talk to them and calm them down.
Right.
So that's my job here. So I have this house full of females, and every so often one of them gets kind of crazy. Okay. And they're like, oh, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine.
We don't use the cray word.
Yeah, sorry. So About a week ago, Raja was, cabin fevered up and everything. And I was like, I'm going to take Raja out. So I asked her, I was like, hey, would you like to go, nowhere in particular? And so we get out, and every time Raja and I go somewhere, strange crap, just like we'll see like goats standing on top billboards. I mean, like just really weird stuff.
Right.
And we went this back way I had never been before because I love doing stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know what possessed me. This goes on with the dream thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was still sick, right? This was still during sick time.
Right.
But for whatever reason, I wasn't consciously thinking. Now, I had to make the decision to go here.
Right.
But I wasn't thinking it through or thinking it out.
Right.
Because Raja, as we've documented on here, has experienced a blood-curdling elemental. Mm-hmm. When I said, hey, come here, there's a lady that lives in the woods. Mm-hmm. And Raja, like 10 feet from it, it goes, rah! And
right.
She was like, that's it for me, Yeah. She experienced a little devil baby Japanese water demon. She could hear the feet running around us in a circle. Mm-hmm. And it was going hee. So she experienced all this hardcore stuff that people would love to experience.
One of these days she's going to quit, coming when you say come here.
So anyway, she doesn't like being around the paranormal.
No.
She doesn't mind to watch, Ghost Adventure or something. But she doesn't like to do it. No. So anyway, I was trying to calm her down, listen to music. Things are going good.
Let her unwind.
Oh yeah, it's going good. We're driving in this blizzard that wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah, and it was just but I'm going fast because we can. And anyway, we start going down this 1-lane road, and she's like, "This is a spooky looking place." I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "It's really weird." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And we turned down, and she's like, "Did that say don't cross because of the rising water?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." So we get down there, and we're at the freaking Sensabaugh Tunnel. And it couldn't look creepier. There's fog everywhere.
Right.
All the graffiti's there, and the water is just raging through it because there had been like too much storms. And we're down there, and it's right at the raging water, and it's Sensabaugh Tunnel, and we're just there. And she, the way the lights are hitting it, she just looks at me and she goes, "What in the world made you believe that some part of me, any part of me, would actually want to come here?" And I was like, she's like, "Turn around and we need to leave." And I was like, I'm really sorry. I just, and I really did, it was like it hit me all of a sudden.
Right.
It was really strange because that's not a place I just go.
No, and you wouldn't take Raja.
And I wouldn't take Raja.
Yeah.
That's like an us thing.
Yeah.
And it was really strange. But I thought I would throw that out there because it was part of the strange. And we always tell all our friends and family here on the show.
Yes.
We always tell you guys everything. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was really cool. But hey, again, thank you for the news. And, we'll see, I can't wait to see what happens within the next week because we're doing this Wednesday thing now. So pretty cool. All right. Well, there's not much left to say after all that.
No. Jam-packed show.
Jam-packed. The one thing I will say is we will have a new intro starting next week. I meant to do it because we did the special Halloween intro. And normally that's when I start the new intro, but we're just going to have the regular. Obviously, you've already heard it. We've had the regular intro. Next week, it's just that we didn't have one good enough. I was, messing around with some.
Sick and we just didn't have time.
Next week, we will have the new intro, but we will be Wednesday next week, and so you set your clocks by it, man. Every Wednesday, at some point during the day, it may be late, maybe early.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm good enough to give an exact time. It'll be on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're gonna be uploading a new episode every Wednesday. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for the support because when things happen and life happens, we truly appreciate the letters of concern and how much. Everyone cares for us, and we care for you just the same. We've made so many wonderful friends along the way.
It's nice to be missed.
Yeah, it is, and it's also nice to have people that are like-minded and care, and we legitimately think of all of you as our friends. And I appreciate the support, and I appreciate you sharing the show. I appreciate when you subscribe. And all that really helps us, because we just want to do nothing more than just bring you the best show possible. So for my lovely wife, Stacey, my name's John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out ParanormalSideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a Sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacey, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.